So here's what I know is you go through this thing called life, that things aren't just going to come to you. That's right. If you're looking to accomplish your goals and your dreams, it's not going to just come to you. If you're looking to have success, it's not going to just come to you. If you've been unemployed now for some time and you've been looking for a job, it's not going to just come to you. If you're looking for a relationship and you're trying to make sure that you can have happiness, and unfortunately you've been going from one toxic situation to another, that a great healthy relationship is not always just going to come to you. No, you got to go out there and get it. You got to go out there and catch it. And most importantly, you got to cast your rod. Andy, what are you talking about? Cast your rod. Let me tell you something. For the first time in my life, I went fishing. Let me tell you, I have never, ever gone fishing before. I'm a city boy, a city slicker. You know, we don't do this fishing thing. We're not interested in touching wet, slimy fish. We don't even want to put our own bait on the hook. We're not interested in doing anything like that. But I got a good friend of mine who was giving me a call. He said, Andy, listen, man, I just bought this house. It's sitting on this beautiful, beautiful lake, beautiful enclosed community. And he says, man, one of the things that I love doing as I'm having the house renovated, I love just sitting back here in the backyard. I get a couple of fishing rods and I go ahead and I just sit out here and I go fishing, man. He says, man, you won't believe how relaxing it is. I said, listen, I'm a city boy, man. I'm a city slicker. We don't do the fishing thing. Not interested. And he said, come on, man, you got to come by. I said, listen, I'm not interested. He said, you got to come by. Well, at least come by and take a look at the house. And so I went over there. And sure enough, he set me up for the old bait and hook. That's right. He said, come over to look at the house. And sure enough, I get there. He's back there sitting down, relaxed. He's holding his fishing rod in his hand, and he's back there fishing. And as soon as I get there, he pops up. He said, man, I'm so glad you're here. Hey, man, the guys are getting started on the house, but listen, you got to go fishing with me. I said, listen, man, I have no idea how this works. He said, it's okay. I'm going to teach you. Here's what you're going to do. He said, look, man, here, this is a fishing rod. You know what that is, right? I said, yeah, I've never been fishing before, but I've definitely seen a fishing rod. He said, man, look, this is how it works. This fishing rod, it's got a line that's going out of it. At the end of the line, I'm going to go ahead and tie this little weight in this hook. We're going to put the hook at the end of the line. Now, listen, of course, in order to attract the fish, we got to put some bait on there. So I've got these little fake worms. I'm going to go ahead and put this little fake worm right here at the end of the hook. Now, here's what I want you to do. At the end of this fishing rod, there's this little button right here. You press that button and it will allow you to release the line. And what you've got to do is you've got to cast out the rod. And what that does is that allows you to throw the fishing line out there in the water. Now, hopefully at some point, there's going to be a fish that's swimming underneath the water. It's going to see that bait. It's going to go and try to bite the bait. And in the process, it's going to get hooked. And trust me, you'll feel something. I said, all right, man. I told you I wasn't interested in this fishing thing, but okay. So what do, man? He said, listen, you press this button down and you cast out your rod. You just do this swing motion, and don't worry, the momentum, the line's going to go out there and drop. And so I pressed the little button, I casted out the rod, and you're not going to believe this. First time fishing, not even out there for a minute. The moment I throw this fishing rod and the line goes out there, the moment it gets in the water, I feel a little tug. I'm like, wait a second. I said, Eric, I feel tug. He said, are you serious? He's like, hey man, wheel it in, pull, yank on it, pull, man. Okay, great. Now start wheeling it in. Sure enough, I'm excited. I can feel this thing pulling. I'm fighting it. I'm wheeling it in, and I pull it out, and sure enough, I caught a fish. He's like, man, I can't believe this, Andy. He goes, he gets his little iPhone, he starts recording. He says, man, you don't understand. Some people are out here all day fishing and they catch nothing. You've never fished before. You're not even out here for a minute and you already caught a fish? I said, man, it's crazy. He said, take the fish off the hook. I said, wait a second. You're going too far. No way. I'm not touching that fish. He takes it off the hook. Sure enough, a couple minutes later, I've cast out my rod again. The line's out there for a couple minutes. I feel something bite. I start following the instructions. I pull back on the rod. I start turning the little wheel. Next thing you know, I pull out another fish. I'm out there and you won't believe it. Some would call it beginner's luck. I don't know what you want to call it, but I was out there and I caught 8 fish. And the whole time everybody else is out there, they each caught one and they're thinking to themselves, how could this guy catch a fish? And the whole time I was out there, I was so excited. And then I started thinking about it. And here's what I realized. The whole time I was out there, never once did I catch a fish while I was just sitting down and observing. Never once did I catch a fish when I had the fishing rod right there on the grass laying down without having it in the water. That all 8 times when I caught a fish, that there was one thing that was the common denominator when I was trying to figure out how is it that I was able to catch the fish every single time. The only way I was able to catch a fish is I was willing to cast my rod. And so here's what I say to you. That maybe right now you're not trying to catch a fish in your life, but there's something that you're trying to catch. You're trying to catch a break. You've been struggling now for quite some time. You're looking for something to happen. So what do you got to do? You got to cast your rod. That maybe you've been unemployed now for some time and you're saying, Andy, you don't understand. I've been looking for a job. What do? You got to cast your rod and continue to make those phone calls. You got to cast your rod and continue to send out your resume. You got to cast your rod and make sure that you're getting out there and networking. If right now you're listening to my voice and you're saying, Andy, I need to grow my business. You don't understand. I need new business partners. It's the only way that my business is going to grow. I got to talk to people about the opportunity. If you want your business to grow, cast your rod. Get out there, make the phone calls, talk to anybody and everybody who gets within 3 feet of you about your business opportunity. So you've been saying to yourself, Andy, you don't understand. I've been around here. I've been single for quite some time. I've come out of one toxic relationship to another, and I don't know. I just haven't been getting out there. I'm not putting myself in settings where I can meet people. You know, I stopped working out. I stopped taking care of myself. I've just given up. And I don't know, what do you think I need to do to give myself a chance to find love, to find a healthy relationship? I'm going to tell you what you need to do. What you need to do is cast your rod. Yeah. You got to put yourself out there. You got to throw yourself out there in the water, because that's where all the action is at in life. Yeah. You're not going to be able to get that job that you've been looking for by just sitting down on the sidelines. You're not going to be able to get that job that you're looking for if you're putting all your tools away. No, you got to be willing to pick up that fishing rod and throw yourself out there. You got to throw yourself out there making the phone calls. You got to throw yourself out there by making sure that you submitting your resume. You got to throw yourself out there by saying, who is it that I can call? Who is it I can meet that maybe can introduce me to the right person? I got to cast my rod in order to have success. I got to cast my rod if I'm looking to catch a job, if I'm looking to catch a dream, if I'm looking to catch an opportunity, if I'm looking to catch a break. Yeah. And so here I am, fishing for the very first time in my life. But I'm learning some valuable lessons. And I'm sharing these lessons with you. And so one of the first things that I realized is that here's one thing that's certain. This is a universal principle. This is a law. I need you to grab this concept. I need you to understand it. One thing is certain. If you don't cast your rod, one thing is certain, you will not catch anything. That's right. You see, when I was out there fishing and standing by that lake, there was none of those fish were in the water and said, hey, catch me, Mr. Henriquez. None of them were jumping out of the water onto the land and saying, here, just take me. No, that wasn't happening. No, I had to make sure I casted the rod in order to give myself even the opportunity, the possibility in order to catch a fish. And the same thing applies to you. If you're not making sure that you're casting your rod, here's one thing that I know that's certain, you're not going to come across that job opportunity. Those things don't just come to you. If you decide to just stay in the house and close the door and you give up on submitting applications and you give up on making phone calls, one thing is certain, if you're not casting your rod, you will not find a job opportunity. Here's another thing that's certain. If you're not casting your rod by making sure that you're talking to people about your business opportunity, by making sure that you're with excitement and conviction, like the first time you got involved in this business opportunity, that you're making sure that you're talking to people and that you're sharing the opportunity with them, and that you're showing them how is it that they can partner up with you in your business and make some income. If you're not making it a point to cast your rod, one thing is certain: your business will not grow. Let me tell you another thing that's certain. If you find yourself in a situation where you say, Andy, I'm looking for a companion. Andy, I'm looking for my future husband. Andy, I'm looking for my future wife. But you're not working on yourself. You're not making sure that you're getting out there and you're meeting people. That you're not making sure that you are doing all the things that are required in you in order to attract the person that you're looking to have within your life. If you're not casting your rod, that person, maybe a very, very long time before you and that person ever cross paths. And so, one thing that's certain, if you know right now as you look at your life that you've been frustrated and you've stopped casting your rod, and let me tell you something that can happen to all of us. You know, when I was out there fishing, I wasn't the only one that was out there fishing. As a matter of fact, there was another young fella that was out there. And every time he saw me catch a fish, he was getting excited. But there's another part of him that was getting frustrated because he was thinking about how many times he casted out his rod and he had to wheel it back in and he didn't catch any fish. And so that can happen to all of us. That maybe right now as you're listening to my voice, that you say, Andy, you don't understand, man. I've been submitting resumes. You don't understand. I've been out there making phone calls. You don't understand. I've been going to networking meetings and I still haven't caught anything. That you don't understand. I've been going out and networking and going different places where I can meet somebody and I still haven't been able to meet Mr. or Mrs. Right. That Andy, you don't understand. I feel like I'm doing the things that are required, but I keep casting my business out there. I'm talking to people about the business opportunity. I'm inviting them to business opportunity meetings. I'm telling them about our products and our services, but you don't understand, man. You don't understand. I haven't been able to catch anything, but let me tell you what the alternative is. The alternative is that you don't cast your rod. The alternative is that you decide to just sit on the sidelines. The alternative is that you decide to pack away your tools, that you get rid of all those things that make you who you are, and you decide to stop casting out your rod. I'm going to tell you what that's going to produce. It's going to produce nothing. No job. No growth. No opportunities. That the only people who are going to be able to benefit from the opportunities are the ones who are willing to cast out their rod. You know, I love this quote by H. Jackson Brown. He said that opportunity dances with those who are already on the dance floor. And the way that you get out there on the dance floor of life, the way that you ensure that you're able to catch something, you've got to be willing to cast your rod. You got to put yourself out there. And so here's another thing that I know. Not only is it certain that if you decide that you're not going to cast your rod, if you decide that you're just going to give up because you've gotten frustrated, because of the fact that you haven't gotten any bites, because of the fact that an opportunity has yet to come your way, because you've yet to get called on a second interview, because of the fact that you've yet to have a new person sign up for your business opportunity, because of the fact that, unfortunately, you've been told no over and over again, that the bank or whoever it is that you've been wanting to partner up with you has been telling you no, and you've decided to stop casting out your rod, you understand that the alternative is that you're going to produce no results. And so the second thing that I realize, here's what I realize, that no matter what your skill level is, no matter how many degrees you have, no matter what initials are behind your name, whether you have an MBA or a CPA or you're an Esquire, no matter what you have behind your name, that there's one thing that is guaranteed to increase your probability of success. And what is that? It's the simple act of casting your rod. Here I am, never fished before, but I was willing to cast a rod. Yes, my friend had to persuade me. Yes, I had no idea what I was doing. But just because I was willing to cast my rod, immediately it increased my probabilities of catching a fish. And so that's what I say to you. That I know you may be frustrated at times. I know that maybe perhaps you haven't been getting the results that you want to get. But realize this, if you're willing to cast a rod, just the act of casting your rod and submitting the resumes, just the act of casting your rod and speaking to everybody who gets within 3 feet of you about your business opportunity, just the act of casting your rod by going to the seminars and workshops and working on yourself so that you can finally tune and fine tune this gift, this talent that you have, so you could pursue this dream, this thing that you've been looking to accomplish. Just the act of casting your rod and being persistent and understanding that sometimes in life that you got to be willing to do the things that others won't do today in order to have the things tomorrow that others won't have. That was Les Brown that said that. Just the act of casting your rod, it gives you a better chance. And so I think about a voice that many of you have come to know, and I consider not only a coaching student, but a good friend. And some of you have had the opportunity to listen to Lewis Moore. Lewis Moore is one of my Inner Circle Black Card member coaching students. And Lewis, we've branded Lewis under the concept of being the comeback expert, because if you knew all of Lewis's life, the experiences he's been through, having been born from the moment he was born and having a heart that wasn't fully functioning, you'll understand from the moment that he was born, he's had to fight to make a comeback. And some of you heard him have a very terrible motorcycle accident. You know that for the past almost decade now, Lewis has been making a comeback to be able to walk. And so one of the things that Lewis shared, and I remember when he shared this story, I was just listening. And Lewis said that it was some years ago that he was dating this young lady, and you know, he thought for sure that this young lady, they had a promising future, that this is somebody that he was going to build a future with. And he said he remembered they went out to dinner, and here they are, they're having dinner and they're relaxing, and Lewis said his telephone rang. And so the telephone rings, he picks it up, he's like, hello? And they say, Lewis, man, this is one of your neighbors. You need to come home right now. He's like, what's going on? He said, Lewis, come home right now, man. Your house is on fire. And so Lewis said, man, I couldn't believe it, Andy. He said, right away, man, I just put the money down on the table. He said, man, we got into the car, and he said, man, I literally flew home. I drove home as fast as I can. He said, but I got there and it was too late. It was too late. Yeah, the fire had already started in the house. Yeah, the sprinkler system in the house had already started to go off. And he said, that's when I got in there and I tried to run inside, and I realized it dawned on me right before we left, I had a candle burning and I didn't turn the candle off. He says, man, I'm looking, man, and I'm watching my personal belongings. I'm watching my house catch fire. Sure, the fire department came, man, but it was too late. I'd already lost most of my valuable items, man. He said it was so bad, of course, I couldn't sleep at the house. And he said, so we had to go and rent a hotel room. And he says, I remember being back at that hotel room, and I don't know, man, you know, I try to stay positive. And he said, man, Andy, I was trying to look at this thing as positive I can. I started saying, well, you know, at least nobody got hurt, Lewis. No one got hurt. You're alive. Your woman's alive. She's fine. And at least no one got hurt, you know. And he said, well, you know, it's all material stuff. You know, it can all be replaced. And sure, I didn't want to have to lose my items this way, but it's just material stuff I could replace. And then he said, finally, he said, the last thing that I hung my coat on, Andy, he said, at least I have somebody right now that I know that cares for me, that loves me, that's going to be there, that's going to see me through this difficult situation. And so he said, Andy, man, just knowing those three things, no one got hurt, it's just material possessions, and at least I have somebody, a significant other, that's going to support me and be with me through this difficult time. And he said, man, Andy, just when I started to wrap my mind around this thing, He said, I remember sitting down and this young lady that I was dating at the time, she came in the room. She said, Lewis? He said, yeah, what's going on? Lewis, we need to talk. He's like, what's going on? And she said, Lewis, I don't know if I can do this anymore. What? What are you talking about? I don't know if I can do this anymore, if I could be in this relationship. Wow. Lewis said, he said, man, you want to talk about being blindsided. He said, man, my house just literally caught on fire. I lost my house. I lost my personal belongings, and this person that I thought was going to support me, this person that I thought was going to see me through this process, this person says to me that I don't know if I can do this anymore. And so I think that most of us would agree that if you had been in Lewis's situation, that most of us would agree that if Lewis got bitter, that most of us wouldn't be upset with him. If he got bitter and said, you know what, that's it. I don't want to be with anybody right now. I'm just going to be single for some time. You know, I can't trust anybody, man. The moment you think you can trust somebody, the moment you think you're building a relationship with somebody, when you need them the most, when things aren't going in your direction, then they come in and they tell you that they can't do this anymore. Most of us would say that Lewis had every right to be upset. But you know what? That's not what Lewis did. No. I'll tell you what he did. He said, even though this woman hurt me, even though that I got every right to be bitter right now, he says, you know what? I'm still going to cast out my rod. And Lewis got on the internet and he set up an online profile on one of these online dating sites. And I know some of you may or may not believe in it, but it's true. You know, the statistics are out there. They say 1 out of every 5 relationships starts online. And Lewis said, you know, I'm going to cast out my rod. I'm going to set up a profile. I'm going to put this picture. I'm going to put up my bio. I'm going to say something. I'm going to reach out to some people. And so he reaches out and he crosses a path. He notices that this young lady checks out his profile and then he reaches out to her. He said, hey, I noticed you swung by my profile. You didn't say a word, and they exchange some dialogue. They start talking on the phone, and finally they meet up and they have a great first date. And then it escalates from there. And here you are now. I can't believe it was literally this past month that I got to finally meet Lewis Moore in person. And who was sitting next to him as I was sitting with him at the dinner table? Who was sitting next to him? His fiancée. Yeah, his wife-to-be. The young lady that he met on the online dating site. Because when he got frustrated, when he was disappointed by the other person, that he said to himself, I'm just going to continue to cast out my rod. And so here's what I know. Maybe you've been through one of those situations where you've been disappointed. Life caught you by the blind side, that you've been pursuing this goal and this dream, and so far things haven't worked out in your favor, that life caught you by the blind side, that you got let go from a job, that you've been there for a lot of years. You thought that you had seniority. You didn't think in a million years that they were going to come in there and lay you off. And so you've been frustrated. You've been trying to get another job. And unfortunately, you have been able to get a job. And what I say to you is, you still got to cast out your rod. And so maybe perhaps you've been pursuing this goal and this dream. And it's something that you haven't been just going after this thing for a couple of weeks. No, you haven't been going after this thing for just a couple of months. No, you've been going after this thing for years. And still, it hasn't come to fruition. Still, people around you are saying, why don't you just give up? Why are you just holding on to this thing? Why don't you just stop being a dreamer? And what I want you to tell them is, listen, all I know is I just got to continue to cast out my rod. And so here's what I say to you. That right now, in spite of the circumstances, in spite of whatever's going on, that all you got to be willing to do is cast out your rod and continue to submit those resumes, make those phone calls. That you got to cast out your rod and speak to the right people, develop, get the coaching, get the mentor, go to the things, Google, find out some new information, stretch, work on yourself so you can recreate yourself, cast out your rod and get back out there, get on an online dating site, talk to people, say, hey, look, I'm out here. I've recovered now. Somebody else hurt me, but I'm ready to move on with my life. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I understand that I need somebody right now, and I want to be able to build a great relationship. I've put in the work. I've worked on myself now. I understand that somebody else is not going to complete me, so I've worked on myself. And so I'm going to cast out my rod. I'm going to get out there. I'm going to see if I can meet somebody. Or maybe you've been pursuing this thing for quite some time now, and people are telling you, why don't you just give up? And all you've seen little glimpses of success, but yet and still, you still haven't been able to acquire, to achieve this thing that you've been wanting to accomplish. And here's what I say to you, you've got to cast out your rod. Yeah. When you don't cast out your rod, one thing is certain. You won't catch anything. And just the mere act of casting out your rod, it's going to increase the probability of you getting that job. It's going to increase the probability of you accomplishing your goals and your dreams. It's going to increase the probability of you meeting that special someone. It's going to increase the probability of you growing your business. And here's what I know for sure. If you cast out your rod long enough, if you're willing to keep the course, if you decide not to quit, one thing that I know is certain, it may not happen next week. It may not happen next month. It may not happen this year. It may not even happen in 2 years. It may not happen in 5 years. But if you cast your rod out long enough, here's one thing that's guaranteed. You will catch something. Yeah. You'll catch something. Because of the fact that you were willing to be consistent, you'll catch something. Trust me on this. Because of the fact that of your resilience, that you'll catch something. Because of this thing that they call grit, that the willingness to keep pushing forward even when you don't see the results, the willingness to keep pushing forward even when you want to talk yourself out of it, the willingness to keep pushing forward even when people around you no longer believe in you. If you're willing to cast out your rod, you'll catch that job, you'll catch that dream, you'll catch that opportunity, you'll catch your goals and dreams. And most importantly, here's what I say to you. Cast out your rod. This has been Andy Henriquez reminding you to always show up for your life. Because if you don't, ladies and gentlemen, no one else will.